Institute on Disability and Public Policy for the ASEAN region prepares transformative disability policy leaders and serves as a collaborative think tank on disability policy for the ASEAN region through an unparalleled network of 20 leading universities and 4 outreach partners with long-term support from the Nippon Foundation. The 2014 IDPP Annual Meeting, hosted from 8 to 22 August by University of Malaya in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, was the 4th annual gathering of IDPP Network and the first major meeting for IDPP held in Malaysia, the 2015 chair of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. The 2014 annual meeting was the largest annual meeting to date, with over 80 participants from across IDPP network of 23 institutions in 9 of 10 ASEAN countries and around the world. Participants included IDPP Advisory Board and Executive Committee members, faculty, incoming IDPP fellows, and capacity building participants, alumni, invited guests, and staff. In addition to the 4th annual IDPP Advisory Board meeting and 2-week residency period for incoming IDPP students, the 2014 annual meeting was particularly unique for the series of innovative elements that were introduced for the first time. These new events included the inaugural IDPP Accessible Cyberteaching Training Workshop, Effective Storytelling Workshop, and Multistakeholder Roundtable on Inclusive Education Policy, co-sponsored by the Nippon Foundation, Microsoft Corporation, and the Global Initiative for Inclusive Information and Communication Technologies. The remainder of the 2-week period featured expert lectures by renowned IDPP faculty and disability policy experts, as well as site visits to Putrajaya Cyberjaya, leading disabled persons organizations and private sector corporations. Open to all annual meeting participants, these academic preparation activities were critical components of the IDPP Residency. The 4th annual IDPP Advisory Board meeting assembled world-class leaders in education and disability policy to discuss IDPP progress and future strategic direction. Composed of the IDPP Advisory Board, Executive Committee, and invited guests, the Advisory Board meeting focused on IDPP's highest priorities for the year, the creation of the Disability and Public Policy Thematic Network within the ASEAN University Network, called AUN-DPP Net, and the establishment of concrete collaboration with regional master's degree programs in public policy. At the most recent ASEAN University Network Board of Trustees meeting in June 2014, the IDPP for the ASEAN Region Network garnered approval to move forward with the creation of AUN-DPP Net. IDPP and all of its partners are now working towards the creation of this new thematic network within the ASEAN University Network that will allow a formal mechanism by which all 30 AUN members and non-AUN members in the IDPP network can actively engage in disability and public policy-focused collaboration. A robust discussion around collaborative master's degree programs at the intersection of disability and public policy was also central at the meeting. IDPP is now working with partners across Malaysia, Philippines, Brunei, Indonesia, and others on implementation of master's degree program in the ASEAN region on public policy with focus on disability policy. These efforts will allow IDPP fellows a range of innovative program choices including face-to-face, blended, and virtual master's degree programs across the region. The inaugural IDPP University partner to advance this goal within the region is University of Malaya, whose face-to-face Masters of Public Policy program within the university's International Institute for Public Policy and Management, or INPUMA, welcomed 5 IDPP fellows and 1 capacity-building participant into this highly reputable residential program. Within this existing 42-credit-hour program, the IDPP worked with to identify areas in which disability policy-focused content could be inserted and taught by IDPP and INPUMA faculty. The day-long advisory board meeting also featured a special lunchtime keynote address by Yutaka Asugi, Associate Professor at Tsukuba University of Technology in Japan. A specialist in sign linguistic and deaf studies, Dr. Osugi shared his most recent research on the compilation of Japanese sign language corpus that includes sign language lexical items from the 49 prefectures of Japan using maps and movies. Malaysia's Deputy Minister of Education, Datuk Mariap, offered an opening address to over 50 representatives from government, private sectors, academia, and civil society at the Multistakeholder Roundtable on Inclusive Education Policy co-hosted by IDPP and University of Malaya and co-sponsored by the Nippon Foundation, Microsoft Corporation, and G3 ICT. The full-day roundtable also featured special guests including Senator Batmalwati Krishnan of the Upper House of Parliament of Malaysia, a number of Malaysian Ministry of Education representatives, ASEAN regional governmental organizations, and DPO leaders. With Malaysia's role as the chair of ASEAN beginning in January 2015, the roundtable offered an exceptional opportunity to contribute to the development of regional and global strategies for inclusive education and discuss the critical role that accessible information and communication technologies can play in enhancing the inclusive education policy environment in Malaysia and across ASEAN. 5 presentations set context for 2 major plenary discussions on the national mandate for inclusive education in ASEAN and policy objective and national implementation for inclusive education. Ambassador Luis Gallegos, chairman of G3 ICT and current senior scholar at the United Nations Institute for Training and Research, outlined the G3 ICT UNESCO model policy for inclusive ICTs in education for persons with disabilities. Dr. Zahar Mansor, National Technology Officer at Microsoft Malaysia, spoke on inclusive education and accessible ICTs. Dr. M.N.G. Mani, Secretary General of the International Council for Education of People with Visual Impairment, shared the ICEVI Global Campaign of Education for All Children with Visual Impairment. Dr. James De Caro, Professor and Dean Emeritus of National Technical Institute for the Deaf at Rochester Institute of Technology, discussed inclusive higher education for deaf and hard of hearing students in ASEAN. And Dr. Rohana Binti Jani, Associate Professor and Principal of the 7th Residential College at the University of Malaya, spoke on inclusive higher education in Malaysia, students, awareness, and attitudes. A press conference with key subject matter experts was held during the event, which garnered tremendous media attention on the critical issue by major publication, including a feature story in the Sunday edition education section of The Star, a radio interview by BFM 89.9, and articles in the Daily Express Malaysia. The The 2014 IDPP Annual Meeting welcomed 5 outstanding IDPP Fellows and 1 capacity building participant who participated in 2-week residency program for IDPP students in academic preparation for the Master of Public Policy Studies at the University of Malaya in Puma in September 2014. The residency program also allowed IDPP students to begin living on the University of Malaya campus within the Zaba 7th Residential College, an accessible dormitory that houses the students as the part of the IDPP living and learning community. This living and learning community fosters networking and mentorship activities, welcomes faculty visits and guest lectures, cultivates critical academic and social support for IDPP students throughout the duration of their studies.
Hi, my name is James Chua. Before I joined the master's program in UM and in Puma, I had a variety of work experiences, especially working with the deaf community. I started writing a Challenges magazine, a magazine for people with disabilities, and what are their challenges they face, their lifestyle, their stories, personal stories. So I interview and write them, and it was published in the magazine called Challenges.
I am Eric Marco Ramos. I am from Manila, Philippines. I work with a DPO. It focuses on accessibility and assistive technologies for persons with visual impairment in Manila. I handle the training programs. However, I also work as a staff of the DPO, and I am sent to different stakeholder consultations on different laws for PWDs. So that's mainly my experience with policies. This program is a respected program, and it would give me the edge. Not many of disability advocates and leaders back home have this background, and I believe that it would give me that added credibility and that reputation of being associated with the university and the IDPP. So I guess, in the work of advocacy and policy, credibility is important, and I believe that this can help me get that. I can work on a different angle of the same advocacy. If in the past I was working in the training area, now I could work on the planning area, on the policy level, on the planning level, way before these training programs take place. I could be involved in that. So I can be involved in all the processes involved in training and capacity building. So I think my participation, I believe that my participation is going to be a lot more holistic in terms of being there every step of the way.
My name is Muhammad Fadlullah bin Sharudin. I'm from Malaysia. My undergraduate study was computer science. So after my graduation, I complete my graduation, my bachelor degree. I work in the private sectors in the IT company for about 1.5 years, and then I'm going back to the university because they call me to assist them for me to work in the disability services units. My goal for this after I graduate, after I finish this program, yes, I wish I want to serve back to the community. I want to make sure that the disabled are getting their rights for them. They have the inclusive environment there, so they have the proper facility for them in order for them to function equally, and then I also want to improve the awareness among the people about the disability, so that we also want to improve the self-empowerment of the disabled people. It's not just you are disabled and then you cannot do anything. No, I don't want to have that in our society. We want to, even though that you are disabled, me also disabled, so we can go to the highest point. We can serve back to the community. That's it.
My name is Sam. I come from Vietnam, and I just graduated from university. Yes, I was blind since I was 13 years old, and after that I came to Blind Center to continue my studying. And while I'm studying, I face with many difficulties in going to class, and so that I want to apply for this scholarship, study about disability and public policy, so that when after I finish this course, I can come back to Vietnam and to make the law better for disabled people to come to go to school.
My name is Liu Thị Hiếu. I'm from Vietnam. Before applying for this scholarship, I was a project assistant for the program in support people with disabilities funded by USAID. And during the time I worked there, I found out that the people with disability in Vietnam need many support from the government to develop themselves, and I believe that public policy will help us. I wanted to be a leader of DPOs in the future. Before coming here, I and my friend established a group called Free Building Life of people with disability in the center of Vietnam, Đà Nẵng City. And this group was not stamped by the government, but it's a self-help group. In the future, I want to lead that group with what I learned from this program to develop it to become an NGO with social work system and public policies to advocate for people with disabilities in Vietnam to have a better future and better education.
The residency program featured a series of face-to-face and virtual expert lectures by subject matter experts in disability, public policy, international development, ASEAN affairs, human rights, and social welfare. The program also included a number of site visits to prominent local and regional government agencies, disabled persons organizations, and private sector corporations. Ms. Judy Human, Special Advisor for International Disability Rights at the U.S. Department of State, and Ms. Charlotte McLean Lapo, Coordinator for Disability and Inclusive Development at the USAID, shared with students their roles as leading international disability rights experts. Dr. Sri Prapa Pechara Mesre, Lecturer and Director of the PhD Program in Human Rights and Peace Studies at Mahidol University and convener at the AUN Thematic Network on Human Rights, spoke on the intersection of human rights and disability within ASEAN. Dr. Irwanto, Director of the Center for Disability Studies at Universitas Indonesia, discussed the concept of disability leadership and effective advocacy skills in promoting disability policy and rights. The students received vast knowledge on the background, history, and structure of ASEAN, as well as the complicated relationship between Malaysia, ASEAN, and United States, and regional strategies, successes, and challenges by American University professor Dr. Amitav Acharya, current president of the International Studies Association and world-renowned expert in ASEAN affairs, and assistant professor Dr. Pek Kun Heng. Expert lectures from civil society organizations such as Mr. Christian Dunn, Director of the General Election Network for Disability Access on Electoral Access for Persons with Disability in ASEAN and Monitoring of National Election in Indonesia, contributed toward the broad range of academic preparation knowledge received by IDPP students from high-profile academics, researchers, government, and non-profit leaders. Site visits to Putrajaya, the Federal Administrative Center of Malaysia, and Cyberjaya, a federal science and innovation park and critical part of Malaysia's multimedia super corridor, allowed for interaction with government-run inclusive schools in the country. Visits with Southeast ASEAN Minister of Education Organization, Special Education Network in Melaka, a UNESCO World Heritage Site historic city, Microsoft Corporation Malaysia, Malaysian Association for the Blind, and YMCA Kuala Lumpur allowed for invaluable intersection with government, private, and DPO sectors on disability policy, advocacy, and grassroots activities. A new component for the 2014 IDPP Annual Meeting was a storytelling workshop the day before the IDPP Advisory Board meeting. The workshop introduced annual meeting participants to the techniques of effective storytelling for advocacy with a focus on powerful stories of the disability community. Facilitated by IDPP Faculty and Evaluation Committee Vice Chair Dr. Marlene Arnon, the half-day interactive workshop offered storytelling principles, the use of data in storytelling, and how to find, create, and tell compelling stories. Groups of participants shared the stories they had created at the conclusion of the session. The first in the series of innovative annual meeting elements was the inaugural IDPP Accessible Cyberteaching Training Workshop. This full-day workshop was designed to prepare and train faculty from across IDPP partner institutions to design and deliver quality accessible cyber learning courses. Facilitated by IDPP Executive Director Dr. Derek Cockburn, IDPP Faculty and Evaluation Committee Chairs Dr. Jennifer Ellis and Dr. Marilyn Arnold, and Director of Technology, Mr. Clyde White Jr., the workshop presented an overview of accessible cyber teaching and featured sections on basics in teaching to all and technical training in Blackboard, Collaborate, and Moodle. Disability subject matter experts Mr. Aki Ninomiya, Executive Director of the Asia Pacific Development Center on Disability, and Ms. Tomastine Sarchet, Associate Director of the Pre-College Education Network at the National Technical Institute for the Deaf Rochester Institute of Technology, shared with faculty and staff across the ASEAN region the principles to understanding how to teach and support students who are deaf and hard of hearing, blind and visually impaired, and mobility impaired. The expertise and voices of IDPP alumni were interwoven throughout the workshop with in-person and video sessions. This workshop was designed to be Level 1 in 3-level training course that will conclude with certification after the completion of synchronous and asynchronous content. Approximately 30 faculty and staff from Malaysia, Singapore, Vietnam, Cambodia, Thailand, Laos, Myanmar, Japan, and the US received enhanced knowledge on how to teach all students and are now on their way toward completing training in IDPP's accessible cyber teaching. This reflects the breadth and depth of IDPP's impact, but also provides concrete faculty training opportunities that are becoming increasingly instrumental as the network collaboratively develops blended and virtual master's degree programs based at partner universities across the ASEAN region.